Tudor are known to make watches that have the vibe and inspiration from the watches from the past. This is not to say that Tudor are trying to be a brand what they are not, when their own history is richer than many brands we see around. While Tudor have always taken design inspirations from their sister company Rolex, they add the ingredients of their own in the watches to give their watches their own identities. This mostly started from the Black Bay range about 10 years ago, when we first saw the 41mm Black Bay model. Later in 2018, Tudor presented to the world the Black Bay 58 range in a more compact 39mm case size, which was also slightly thinner to make the watch a little more wearable. Then we saw the Tudor GMT Black Bay 58 in blue dial and then in silver 925 case. There was then an expectation from the watch community that Tudor will offer the GMT model in the same 39mm case size, and while we didn't get the very same model as a 41mm cased GMT, in the all-new Black Bay Pro, we have a GMT hand and a function for reading a second time zone. While Tudor called this new release Black Bay Pro, when you notice the looks, the aesthetics, the functionality and the overall vibe, it's hard to avoid the resemblance it has with the Rolex Submariner. And if you are thinking that why Tudor did not call it the Tudor Explorer, they in fact did. If you check the Tudor website where they introduced this watch, it talks all about explorers, adventurers and the watches for members of expedition. A story very similar to what Rolex Explorer was and is meant for, and the profession it relates to. But this all-new watch by Tudor is not just different from the Explorer by the name. Rather, it does carry the characters that are different, even from Tudor's own range. Let's first look at what's similar here compared to Rolex Explorer. Starting off with the bezel, we have a similar brushed steel bezel with a similar font for the text. The bezel being fixed means that it can only read 2 time zones, and if we refer to the purpose of the watch, the bezel is meant to allow reading a 24-hour time zone and enabling you to read if the time you are seeing on the dial is in AM or PM. The GMT or the 4th dial hand is in orange, which is also the same color as we see in the Rolex Explorer. But that's where the similarities end. The GMT hand here is snowflake and very iconic to Tudor. The dial layout or design is more inspired from dive watches, or we can simply say that from the Black Bay range. There's an interesting character here in the Black Bay Pro, and that is the hour markers here have no metal rings around them. This is different from what you typically see in the Black Bay 58 or GMT range, making it not just different, but also more understated and subtle in how it looks and you will experience on the wrist. The case size here is 39mm, so Tudor have shaved off the size to make it more wrist-friendly. The dial remains matte textured, similar to what you see in Black Bay 58, which adds to the vintage and subtle vibe. Similar is the case with the dial hands, and the texture and the finish you see is very similar to what you see on Tudor Pelagus, including the shape of the dial hands. The crown sits flush with the bezel, so you don't see the crown tube here, as you see on the GMT of 58 models. On the wrist, the Black Bay Pro wears with a presence. It is not as such a loud watch, and since it has more vintage vibe to it, you can easily pull it off for basically everyday use. The watch case size measured at the bezel is 39.5mm. The case is thick and returns a reading of 14.7mm, but this is also due to a domed crystal on top. And measuring the thickness of the case for the steel case, I sized it from the case back to the top surface of the bezel, and it is 11.8mm. But again, it is not a thin watch as such, and on the wrist, it does look relatively thicker and chunkier. The size of the crystal is 32mm, so the face of the watch is also not really small, and it doesn't look like a small watch either. Rather, it probably looks a bit bigger than the size of 39 mils would suggest. The lug-to-lug height of the watch is 47 mils, so you'd ideally need a wrist width of 50 mils or more to easily wear this watch. For reference, Rolex Submariner 41 has a lug-to-lug of 47.5 mils, so while Tudor marketed as a 39 mils watch, if you are thinking that this will wear 2 mils smaller than the 41 mils sub, this is not true, and I can confirm that in terms of its wearability, it is only 0.5 mils smaller than the sub 41, at least as per my caliber. Does it make it a big or bad watch in general? No, it doesn't. It just makes it a different watch than what you would expect from a typical 39 mils case watch. How different it is to Black Bay 58. Is it bigger and how much is it thicker? Let's find out in another video, another day.